Hello, everyone. It's Patrina Yamani here. I'm so happy because we're near the end of all the workshops for 2021, as promised, on emotional wellness. And so today we're going to talk about attachment theory, which is like the new big thing that everybody wants to talk about. And what better than to do an interview with my dear friend, Freedom Asil. And she is just so amazing. She's a licensed social worker, and I can't wait for her to tell you more about her. But definitely thank you so much for coming. We have two more workshops left. And so, Freedom, would you like to tell us a little bit more about you?
Yes. So thank you, Patrina, for hosting this. I think it's great that you're using your gifts and your talents to, really enlighten our community because it's obviously something that's needed. So thank you for hosting. It's always fun being around you.
Yeah, you too.
Thanks. So a little bit about me. I'm a therapist. My background is in social work. I have my own private practice. My name is Agazi and it means freedom. And the private practice is called Freedom's Flow.
Nice.
So yeah, so I do therapy and also life coaching.
Awesome, amazing. And you, I always know as being always resourceful. If anyone needs anything on mental health, you have it at your fingertips. You do your research. And I think that's definitely one of your strong suits and, your strengths. So, but we do want to talk about attachment theory. We don't have a lot of time with you because even after this, you have another engagement with other mental health clinicians and professionals. And so I feel honored that you would even come and do this interview with me. So thank you so much for taking the time.
My pleasure, Patrina. Anything for
So,
you.
oh, thank you, sweetie. So I wanted to start off with just this whole idea, this whole concept of attachment theory. It affects uh, us in more ways than we realize, and it's like embedded in our lives, some people more than others. And a lot of people are like, well, what is this whole attachment theory? And I know me and you were talking, and that's how we came up with this idea. Let's do an interview, a workshop, and talk about it. And so I have a few questions here for you, about seven. And one of them is, can you explain this kind of polarization of attachment theory and abandonment? Because that's the other half of attachment theory. Can you explain that, please?
Yes. So abandonment is more, it's basically obviously the opposite, where attachment is emotional needs being met, being, honored, respected, cherished. Abandonment would be the opposite, where there's a rupture in the emotional connection.
Mhm.
Some therapy modalities that focus a lot on that are emotionally focused therapy, EFT, and then just attachment theory in general. So they focus a lot on repairing emotional ruptures and helping people learn, how to be introspective and then
Mhm.
also communicate what they're learning about themselves when it comes to their abandonment experiences and how that shows up in maybe their relationships with their partners, with friendships, family members, any relationship really.
Mhm. Okay, yes. So I probably should have started off with just giving us a broad definition of what attachment theory is. And can you explain a little bit about Ainsworth's work?
Yes. So she's one of the pioneers with attachment theory. And it's always encouraging when it's a female because, there's a lot of men that are pioneers with this stuff. So,
Yeah.
hey, girl power with her. But yeah, so she did a lot of work with researching attachment and helping people learn more about how attachment impacts people. And she did a study that really started the foundation of understanding how caregivers and children have secure attachments with one another. And she did a study with infants that were 1.5 years old, as well as children that were up to 12 years old. And she had them be by themselves. At one point, no, they were with their caregiver. And then she had the caregiver leave the room and it was just the child playing by themselves. And then they had the caregivers come back and they analyzed how the children interacted with their caregivers. And so that helped them see which children were securely attached to their caregivers and then which ones were maybe anxiously attached or avoidant attached. So that helped, just with furthering the knowledge about attachment theory.
Okay, okay. So what are the signs that someone has an issue with attachment or abandonment?
Um, it can be a lot of different things, there is just a wide variety. Um, Things like even sometimes physical reactions,
Mhm.
like if someone is spending time with a loved one and that person like leaves the room, or if they aren't giving them attention, sometimes the person can physically have a reaction
Mhm.
to this, just because you know how there's a mind body connection. So if you're having anxious thoughts and you can maybe feel your stomach is hurting or any other type of ache or pain. So that could be a sign, as well as sometimes people just feeling really clingy, and that can be a child feeling clingy when their caregiver drops them off to go to school. Or it could be a partner feeling clingy when their partner goes to work and they
Mhm.
text them and they don't hear back from them throughout the day.
Yeah, that's actually a good sign because, spouses or dating or partners, they say, they're texting them all the time. Where are you? Sometimes it leads to jealousy, right? Paranoia, um, feeling insecure, like, oh, they really don't want me or they really don't love me.
Mhm.
I see that a lot and hear that a lot in the office, when I see clients. So like I never thought like this is all about attachment. I never thought this is about feelings of abandonment by your parent or your caregiver, and that that it would affect you even as an adult.
Right. Yep, it's true. It's true. It can make it hard for people to give people the benefit of the doubt,
Mm-hmm.
um, and be more likely to maybe feel jealous or make assumptions,
Yes.
or yeah, just the negative spiral of thoughts, taking things personal sometimes too that
Mhm.
aren't personal. So
Yeah, I could
yeah.
see that. I could see that. That's a good one. Okay, so how does it affect like family? Like, I guess a deeper level, like how does it affect family relationships? And everybody wants to know about romantic relationships, right? So that's where it's really seen the most, or sometimes not even thought of that you have this issue.
Right, right. Because some people have love addiction or codependency. So they
Mm,
think like, oh, I'm just really into this person, but really it's like, no, they're anxiously attached.
mm,
And sometimes maybe that person might be avoidant attached. And then so there's like this like pursuing, withdrawing. That's the big thing with EFT, with emotionally focused therapy. There's
mhm,
like a pursuer and a withdrawer. So
mm,
sometimes the pursuer can be the person who's anxiously attached because they're pursuing the person anxiously.
mhm,
Not always, but sometimes that's how it can be. It can also just lead to abuse, emotional abuse.
mhm,
If some, even with domestic issues and abuse, the person who's abused, the abuser is looking at the other person like an object that they control.
mm,
And so sometimes if they have, like, if they're anxiously attached to them, they can look at them, they can emotionally abuse them so they can control them even more
mhm.
and not have, that secure, healthy attachment with them.
So is
It
this
can,
like the overlapping of codependency? Can you talk about that?
it
Because it sounds
does.
like codependency, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of, similarities and differences. So, codependency, a lot of that is if somebody is addicted to something, or if they have unhealthy habits, the
Mhm,
other person is allowing them to do it because they are, maybe they're people pleasing, or maybe they're anxiously attached to that person and they think, oh, I need you to need me. So I'm going to let you do, be an alcoholic or do whatever.
mhm.
It can also be also with love addiction. That's also another similarity where
Oh,
there can be there it can sometimes people can have both. Like you can have
oh.
love addiction and codependency.
Talk about this
Compared
love addiction though, because that's just like it just perked my ears up. And I'm
oh
sure
yeah,
everybody else out there wants to hear about what love addiction.
yeah, love
Yeah,
addiction is a
I've
real
never
thing.
heard the term used, but you know,
Oh yeah, love addiction is a big thing. Sometimes people think that it's codependency, but sometimes it's really love addiction. But they are like, you can't be If you're a love addict, then there's codependency in there. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And
So
so
love addict, what does that look like? Is it like what does that look like,
like any
functionally?
other, right, just like any other addiction. So if somebody's addicted to like pain meds,
Hmm.
then throughout the day that's what they're thinking about, and that's what they can't function without having that.
Oh.
Yeah, and so it's just, I mean, it hinders your everyday regular functioning.
Oh, because it makes me think of a few people who I've heard say they can't do without having a date, or they can't help being without a man in their life, or you
Mhm.
know, some men, they go from woman to woman,
Right,
dating, maybe not because it's something that's physical attraction or sexual,
right.
right? But maybe it's actually this love addiction of, wanting to feel loved and be loved.
Yeah, most definitely. And a lot of times it's because when they were a kid, they didn't have secure attachments.
Mm.
And so they have this fear of abandonment, or maybe their self-worth. They have low sense of self-worth. So then, they're relying on that high from love addiction.
High from love addiction. You're just saying all the key words here. That's live. Yes. Can you imagine just the thought being high from being in love? But that's what being in love is, right? It's sparking those endorphins in our heads. Yeah.
Yep. It can also impact sleep, digestion. If you're having anxious thoughts and you're not in a calm state, you're harder for your food to digest.
Mhm.
It can impact your sleep. If you're having fearful thoughts, then it can impact your ability to just, be calm and sleep. There are studies that have also shown that people who are securely attached they're just healthier, like
Mhm.
physically healthier, and
Mhm.
they're more likely to reach their goals in life. So secure attachment really does make a difference, being securely
So
attached.
we know what, fearful attachment looks like. Like, what are the other styles?
So there's anxiously attached,
Uh-huh.
there's avoidant attached, and disorganized attached.
Okay.
That was developed later, the disorganized attached one.
Uh-huh.
And then there's obviously secure attachment, which is the healthiest.
So we should know, well, what is secure attachment, right? So what is that? How does that
Secure
look?
attachment. Yeah. So it's like when someone is comfortable expressing their emotions,
Mhm.
identifying their emotions, talking about what they're feeling, what they're thinking. They're okay with confronting the person, and, expressing themselves. Also, um, sometimes it's not necessarily the person's fault. Sometimes the other person doesn't create an environment where it feels safe to bring up issues.
Mhm. Mhm.
And that's when, you just want to reevaluate those relationships. Um, because it takes two to tango. So it's not
Yeah.
necessarily always that person's fault if they don't bring something up. Sometimes it's like a matter of both parties making changes. But I think, being having that easy rapport where you can just discuss things openly.
Mhm.
And then feeling at ease if that person needs to, if your child and your caregiver needs to go on a short trip, being okay with them leaving and coming back. Same with if you're in a romantic relationship or even a friendship, just being okay with the person like leaving and coming back.
Mhm. Or not
So
talking for a long time. That's
yeah,
the
that's
issue, right? It's like, why haven't you talked to me in a long time? And then you think the friendship is, it's not a good friendship, or it's one-sided. And maybe it's just like, it's only been 2, 3 days we haven't spoken, right? Yeah.
yeah,
Mm.
it's true. It's true. A lot of communication can be impacted by attachment.
Yes, yes. This is good stuff. Okay, so our next to last question. What is a good resource for someone who wants to know more about attachment, or who wants to make changes in their lives?
Okay, so these are some books that I like. This is a good one, The Power of Attachment,
Mm.
by Diane Poole Heller.
Uh-huh.
She also has a quiz, like an assessment on her website. So
Okay.
if you look her up, she has an assessment and it's really thorough. It just asks you different questions about, you can just pick the person that you're closest to,
Mhm.
your partner, whatever relationship you're closest to. If you're younger, it could be your parent or, whoever caregiver. And then it shows you like which attachment is like, it's like a graph. So it'll show your like 40% securely attached to this person, 20% anxiously attached, 30% disattached. So it's like, it'll show you the percentages of each attachment style that you have. And it has like a little explanation. So that's a great resource. Then also Creative for Connection by Dr. Sue Johnson. This is also a really good one. This one is about for Christian couples. And she has a chapter in here about attaching to God in a healthy way. But she also has things on her website about like LGBTQIA plus couples. They have trainings that are for couples that are not Christian, not like traditional couples. So she's not like just solely Christian. But this book is really good. And she has examples of like different couples in their marriage therapy sessions. And so it'll be like, this is what the guy said, this is what the girl said, like literally verbatim, it'll say what they said. And then she says like how she helps them. And she talks about, you know, the one person being a pursuer, the other person being the withdrawer, the attachment, and how, you know, how they can communicate with one another to have healthy attachment. So this is a good one. And then if you're a therapist, she has another book, Sue Johnson, called Attachment Theory and Practice. And this is just goes more in depth, and it talks about doing attachment theory with individuals as well as families and couples. So this is also, this is more like dense, it's like more like research and, you know, talking about sessions and stuff like that.
Okay.
They're both like that, but this one is more of like a book for therapists. More like educational.
And I like the range of resources, you know, from anyone, and it includes clinicians, because yes, we do go through, you know, definitely things like attachment and feelings of abandonment, you know. You brought up something very important. You're a spiritual person. I know you to be very spiritual. And Johnson's book, she talks about connection with God. And I can see how, you know, in society, people who probably, you know, they don't want to believe in God, or they don't want, or they're unsure of their relationship with God, and how that plays out for like feelings like abandonment from God. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yes. So that chapter is really great. I've read it like more than once. And she just talks about that connection that we have, you know, she talks about God and Christianity, but, you know, other people might call it their higher power. And she basically just talks about how the perfect caregiver is that perfect secure attachment with the caregiver is from God. And, you know, God will always be trying to securely reach out to us and attach to us. And she has like scriptures where she'll talk about like who we are in God, and like in our relationship with God, how God is always like a big fan, you know, he's always, like reaching out for us, that kind of thing, always, you know, wanting to uplift us, that kind of thing. And it's great. I like it. I like that chapter. I mean, I like the whole book. But
and how, this is the intriguing part, is I can see how, you know, however we grow up with our parents, right? How that can be a reflection to us, and that we put it on God, right? Like if we grew up with abandonment issues for our parents, you know, we grow up and we may see God as also doing the same thing, like as though we put that on him, you know?
Right. Yep. It's true.
Really interesting.
Yeah.
So in closing, is there any question that you think I should have asked on abandonment and attachment theory that you think would be important for the viewers to know?
I can't think of anything. Your questions were just so great.
Oh,
You're a great interviewer.
oh, wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. Well, tell us about some of your resources if someone wants to know more or reach out or have services.
Yeah, I mean, I'm taking new clients. I only work with people who live in Washington, D.C. I can't work with anybody that I know. So if I know you, then I can't be your therapist or life coach. But if it's someone who I've never met, then yeah, I'd be more than happy to see if we're, a great fit. If you want to have a consultation,
Mhm.
I can offer 15-minute consultations.
Okay, do you have a
So
website?
yes,
Mhm.
my website is www.freedomsflow.org.
I love that, freedom's flow. So you.
Thank you.
So thank you so much for doing this interview with me. I know I've been asking you, and you've made the time, and I so appreciate it. It's perfect, for December and being with family, and that's really the true attachment, right? Being around our loved ones. So it's a good way to just go into the end of the year.
True, true.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming. I so appreciate it.
Yeah, most definitely. It was good hanging out with you.
Yeah, thank you. And yes, we have to do this more. All right. All the best and success with your private practice and this new season of life you have, just doing great as a professional clinician.
Thank you. Same to
You're welcome.
you.
Thank you. All right.
Yeah. Okay,
Bye.
bye.